Good afternoon. I'm here with my great friend, Mark Charest, down there in the beautiful Omaha, Nebraska of the Atlantic Ocean. Mark, how are you today in Puerto Rico?
I'm doing fantastic, Jonathan. Not surprisingly, it is February, but it is a beach day.
That's a beach day. Well, it's not a beach day on the banks of the Missouri River. That's for sure up here. Well, hey, I wanted to get you on the phone because we're hearing a lot of talk about M&A. There was a Wall Street Journal article about M&A the other day that we got a lot of questions about. And I think a lot of it has to do with the pending loss of exclusivity we're seeing from these big companies. Give us your perspective on that. What's going on with this exclusivity arrangement running out, and how does that going to impact mergers and acquisitions?
Yeah, absolutely, Jonathan. So this is the greatest loss of exclusivity we're seeing for branded medicines between now and 2030. So all in, the revenue at risk across all the big pharma and biotech companies is between 150 and 170 billion dollars of,
Whoa.
branded revenue that's going away. Right. So we just came through earnings season here, and on the earnings call, the C-suite of every one of these large pharma and biotech companies has commentary around externally sourced innovation and using, really M&A as a tool to augment pipelines. So, we think it's pretty clear that we're going to see an uptick because there's a strategic necessity across the industry.
And is this exclusive to big pharma, or are you seeing this in other sides of the kind of health sciences, healthcare landscape as well?
Well, I think it expands to big biotech as well. So Amgen acquired Horizon Therapeutics. That was a blockbuster deal that happened in
Mhm.
December of 2022 last year. I think that the large biotech companies have now grown up and matured, and they behave and look a lot more like the big pharma companies, right? So I would consider them more of a group, Jonathan, and I
Mm.
think all of them, can and will be active looking for sort of strategic bolt-ons and also transformative M&A deals.
All right. Well, that sounds good, big picture, but what do we do with that? So, investors wise, okay, I should be on the lookout, but what am I looking for? How do I know what to think through this process of exclusivity ending? That means big boys are going to buy stuff. So, what do I do as an investor when I'm thinking about that?
So we find that the fundamentals of potential acquisition targets do track well with actually deals that are ultimately consummated. So,
Mm.
we find that really looking at the fundamentals, so there's a couple buckets to consider, right? So on the strategic acquisition side, corporate acquirers are looking for assets that are complementary to, existing therapeutic areas, and they're looking for really differentiated new medicines, so new mechanisms of action, categories that don't have therapeutic alternatives. They're really looking for the most robust and differentiated data sets that are out there. And so again, this maps back to the scientific fundamentals. And then on the commercial side, again, it's what are the most attractive cash flow streams that are out there that have good growth profiles, that have reasonable exclusivity, right? If you're facing an exclusivity cliff yourself, you want to go out and buy something that has the same issue, right? So you're looking for revenue growth and duration of revenue that is complementary to your existing uh, uh, pipeline. And so again, fundamentals are going to drive this, and we think that you need to really be a thesis-driven fundamental
Mm.
investor to capture some of these potential M&A acquisition targets.
Gotcha. So, other than the contraries to what you just said, the fundamentals and all that stuff, from a false flag perspective, what to stay away from? What's like the quick? What's going to be really noisy, but that's false flag. Stay away from that.
There's been a couple of M&A, speculated deals that have shown up in major newspapers. So, for example, Seagen was speculated,
Mm.
over the course of last year. That deal never happened. Our view was, that company was pretty expensive. It wouldn't be accretive near term. There was some challenges just on valuation. So, I think that's one thing. I think the other thing to consider is, there are a number of, I would say, very differentiated data sets that are in the marketplace right now that are very highly priced. And so
Mm.
what we haven't seen is we haven't seen deals getting done at value destroying takeout ranges, right? So, the big pharmas, in the big biotechs, they need to do deals, Jonathan, but they're not going to pay a price, that doesn't leave them a room for, some return on their own investment in the M&A process. So I
Absolutely.
think those are a couple things to look out for. Is really there's a valuation sensitivity here, and you have to factor that in.
Well, it's good. It doesn't sound like there's desperation on the big boy side, which desperation can lead to big issues in a macro perspective. It doesn't sound like we're there for the space in general. Is that safe to say?
Yeah, I think that's safe to say. And maybe just another point is that just because a stock is down a lot and it appears cheap to where it was trading doesn't mean it's a great acquisition
Oh,
candidate.
yeah, yeah.
I,
Good.
I would guide folks to really focus on the fundamentals of the underlying assets, right? The quality of the mechanism of action, the clinical data, the positioning in the competitive landscape, the intellectual property, the manufacturing, et cetera, going down a list. But that's really what's going to drive it. Just because a stock's down 80% from its 2021 peak doesn't mean it's an attractive candidate.
Awesome. Well, Mark, can't thank you enough for chatting with us on the fly. As always, you're good on the fly. Really appreciate your time. Enjoy a beach day. It's always beach day in Puerto Rico. So shame on you for consistency of beach days, especially from us Nebraskans. And appreciate everybody for watching. Mark, have a great one. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, Jonathan. Thanks, everybody.